Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Inspired and Empowered Living TV show and podcast for a thriving life and business. We are live on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern on talk4tv.com, w4wn.com, and my YouTube channel. And today we do part 3 of the hidden psychology of how to shift those repeating relationship patterns in your life and your business. And like I said, today is part 3, and we're going to go deeper into breaking that pattern. And then also today we're going to talk about those red flags, your intuition and advanced awareness, how to really master your relationship patterns in your life and in your business. And so last week we talked a lot about really recognizing the pattern and being able to take steps like breathing and journaling so that you can break the pattern. And today we're going to, like I said, we're going to go deeper into all of that. We talked about how every pattern is a message to you. It's a message to help you understand more about your inner, what's going on inside of you, and being able to take the steps that you need to take so that you can shift your energy, your awareness. Remember, we talked about awareness as being the first step. Before you can change the pattern, you need to be aware of it. And then it's understanding what's underneath the pattern. And remember, every pattern has a core belief underneath it. So this is something for you to think about. When you have a relationship pattern and that pattern is continuing and you become aware, oh, I am in a pattern, a repeating pattern, then what your next step is to start looking at what is the belief underneath the pattern. So for you, is it, I'm not enough? And that every relationship you have continues to replay every dysfunctional relationship, let's put it that way, the ones that are not serving you. Of course, we're talking about those repeating patterns that need to be broken. We're not talking about relationships that are positive and uplifting and supportive. And so it's about starting to look at the belief underneath, like, is the belief I'm not enough? Or is the belief I have to prove myself? So that you do everything in order to prove yourself to the other person. And a lot of times, no matter what you do, it's never enough. So then there may be 2 patterns, 2 beliefs interwoven, the not enough and having to prove yourself. And then there may be the pattern of I can't say no. It's not okay for me to say no. It's not safe for me to say no. So it's really important for you to really get what is the belief driving your behavior. Remember, we're talking about your behavior because it's the behavior that you can begin to change. And again, I want you all to remember, this is a journey, this is a process. It's not it's ongoing. It's not about beating yourself up. You haven't gotten it right yet, or you're doing it again. It's about you saying, oh, okay, I need to become aware, and oh, I need to shift this pattern. So that's what's most important. And Misty says it's a matter of reading the message. That's right, Misty. It's a matter of really discovering the message underneath the pattern. And as you discover the message, and sometimes you can go right to that belief, and sometimes it may be that you need to go through the feelings, because the feelings can also lead you to the beliefs that don't work for you. So, however you discover the pattern, that's what's most important, is in the discovery of the pattern. And like I said, that is part of the journey of being able. So for example, you want to replace the old belief with a new belief. Like, for example, you have, I need to earn approval. So you're always doing something you must earn that approval. And so the new belief, because you want to create that new belief, the new belief would be, I am ready and worthy of respect and value, or I deserve respect and value. And so it's really about the real change happening on that deeper subconscious level. And so your conscious mind is that part of you that is conscious and aware, the one who tuned into the TV show or podcast. Thank you, conscious mind of yours. And your subconscious mind is the part of you from the moment you were conceived to present time that's recorded every moment you've been alive. And so all those limiting beliefs and emotions that are underneath the repeating relationship patterns, those behaviors, have those limiting beliefs. And learning to understand those limiting beliefs, then you could start changing that pattern, doing subconscious reprogramming. So, like I said, like even I'm not enough. If you have the belief I'm not enough, or it'll never be enough for this person, or the new belief could be, I am enough, or I am good enough, or I am worthy and deserving of someone who gets all that I give, because you're probably a giver. And for those of you who say, I can't say no, or it's not safe to say no, it's really important for me to say no. It is safe for me to say no. I choose to say no. And in AA, they talk about, in 12-step programs, they talk about no is a complete sentence. And it's okay to say no. That is a huge word to learn in your self-care. So very important. And then we have new standards and boundaries. So it's learning to create those new decisions, create those new standards. Like I said, you don't have to over explain yourself when you say no. It's okay. And learning to choose to set clear expectations, clear boundaries. But it's also important for you to realize and get where your boundary is, where you need to say no. And that's on you. That's about you discovering where your limits are and your boundaries, so then you can really confidently say no. And it's really important for you to remember that when you change, other people may react. Now, sometimes what happens is other people may react, they may get angry, or maybe they'll go into fear. But a lot of times when you are a giver, and then you start saying no, that other person may start getting mad or angry and wanting you to continue the behavior that's not working for you anymore, and you're realizing it because it's worked for them. Well, it's you're not going you cannot take responsibility for their reaction. If they have a reaction to your setting a limit or a boundary, it's okay. It's about you being able to keep honoring you, trusting you, and not changing because someone is reacting to your no, or to your limit, or to your boundary. Let's say you're invited to a party or a family gathering, and you only want to stay maybe 2 hours instead of 4 hours. And you can let them know, you can let them know in advance, or you could just go and say, okay, I need to leave now. Oh, but we haven't had dessert yet. Well, you know what? It's okay. I've had enough. I need to go. I need to go home. You don't have to explain. It's important for me to leave now. And it's okay for you to say no, or to say, it's time for me to leave. Thank you, everybody. Goodbye. Have a great rest of your holiday, or have a great rest of your day, whatever it is. Learning all of those is really important. And it's also learning to trust your intuition. So, your intuition, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that today, even deeper, is your intuition will recognize a misalignment, that something feels off, or there's discomfort, or you have an inner knowing, and then you're disregarding it. And I'm really going to support you. If there's some kind of discomfort, or you're having an inner knowing, please explore it. Don't disregard it. And it may get disregarded because of fear of change or your conditioning, but it's really important to keep working on that trust and not go into the self-doubt. Because what happens very often, and I hear this all the time with clients and other people, is that they say, oh, I had that feeling, I had that intuitive hit, and then I went into and then I started talking myself out of it, going into the self-doubt. Okay, so we have some more questions that came in, so let's get to them. Anastasia, it's the when and where to set these up. So yes, it's really important that you in your mind are getting really clear when you need to leave, or what's the occasion, where, and for you, like, the clearer you are around any of your limits, any of your boundaries, the the easier it will be for you to communicate that to other people. Anastasia, if that's not what you were asking or sharing, let me know. Okay. And I will continue with what what your question or comment was. Mickey asked or said, but you don't have to worry about the reactions of others. No, you don't. It's really important for you to be taking care of yourself and not be concerned about the reactions of others, because others may react, but it's not your responsibility to take care of others' reactions. And now you may have learned that growing up, like take care of other people's feelings, or that's what you need to do to take care of other people's feelings. But I want to remind you, it's not your responsibility to take care of other people's feelings. It's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to take care of you and your feelings. That's where your responsibility is. So, a few takeaways to break the pattern. Remember, I said awareness is the first step, but it's not the only step and it's not enough. You must interrupt the pattern. And what happens to interrupt the pattern, take a pause. We talked about this last week. And your pause then allows you to choose differently. That pause, and now your pause, it depends on how deeply you've had a reaction, because I've talked about this in the past. If you have a mild reaction, you can take a pause and you can be like, okay, breathe, I got this, I choose differently. But if it's an intense reaction, your pause may need to be a timeout, and it may not be the same day. You may need time to process what's going on for you. So that's for you to take care of you. And it's okay for you to pause as long as you need to take care of yourself. Remember, your emotions are signals to you, okay? They're not there to act out. So you can have an emotion, you can be aware of the emotion, and then pause or take a time out, depending on the intensity, and then make the choice of how you choose to respond, because that's what breaks the pattern. You go from the reaction to the choice of how you choose to respond, and that will change everything for you. And your beliefs do change. They do shape your relationship. So it's important to understand what are the beliefs that are going on underneath those patterns. And remember, the patterns are learned and they can be unlearned. And those patterns can be healed. But you're going to need to heal them at that deeper level. And your new standards can create new experiences for you. And always remember, your intuition is your guide. So, some questions to ask yourself. What pattern am I aware of? When does this pattern show up most? What is the emotion that is connected to that pattern? And what would a new response to that pattern look like? A new behavior. What would a new behavior look like so that you're not repeating the pattern? And what can I do differently today that can start changing that pattern? So Misty asks, Would you suggest that people get to know the true pattern before trying to make changes? So it depends. I mean, the more awareness that you have of the pattern, the better, because then you could go deeper into the behavior change. But sometimes it's like the journey of the onion. It's the levels and the layers going deeper into understanding those patterns. So if you gain awareness that you're doing a specific pattern and you're at one level and you want to start working on changing the and to start to work on being able, so let me repeat that because we had a blip. So you can notice that the pattern is happening and at one level, and there may be deeper levels. It's learning to start becoming aware and practice starting to break the pattern. Now, even if you can't break the pattern immediately, it's learning, it's practicing. And so it's okay to practice with yourself. The most important thing is not beating yourself up. It's gaining that awareness. And the deeper self-awareness you get, the more you can change the patterns. So I would say start with where you're at, and it's okay. Most important, not to beat yourself up wherever you are, because that is a bad pattern that will only hurt you. And I want to support all of you to have compassion for yourself. It's learning that compassion. Okay. So we have a question from Anastasia. How many layers do people have? Are the layers different from people to people? Okay. So first, I will say the layers may be definitely different from person to person. And how many layers do you have? I can't even answer that because everyone is individual. And I will tell you, I'm still discovering layers. I've been doing my self work for a very, very long time. And I still discover new patterns or different layers of the same pattern and going deeper into working on clearing it or shifting it or healing it. So I can't give you a definite answer on that one, but I will tell you everybody has different layers. But I and some and also to know that different people, some people are willing to go deeper and go to the core of the onion, and some people can only go to a certain layer. And just and sometimes you may only go to a certain layer at a certain time in your life, and then as you get older or something else happens, you may be able to go to another layer. Usually what happens is you can get to a certain point and it feels good, it feels safe, you feel in that state, it feels fine. And then there's something that happens and you're ready to go to a deeper level. So a lot of ways that, like, I want you all to imagine a spiral of your journey, of your healing going upwards. And on that spiral, you can have, you have, you discovered the pattern, you've been breaking the pattern, and you're good for now. And then you're ready to go to another level. And all of a sudden, that same pattern will come up, but it comes out maybe a little bit differently, or you're more healed. And we were talking about that last week with Jenny, where Jenny and Jimmy, and Jenny ended up, her father was physically abusive, and she was drawn to Jimmy, who wasn't physically abusive, but he was emotionally, because he was a rager. So she ended up doing healing work and ended up at a better level. But then she was like, no more abuse at all. We need to get ourselves into couple counseling. And that's what they did. And now they're both on the journey upward, the spiral of healing. So that's what I want to support you all in remembering. So now, let's talk a little bit more about red flags. Again, I want to remind you, red flags, when you see a pattern, a behavior, and you're noticing, they're an indicator that something's off. Something doesn't feel right. And it's really important for you to notice your emotion. How do you feel around someone? The behavior, is there inconsistency? Is there a lack of respect? Are there boundary issues with that person? Or is there an energetic? Something feels off, but you don't even know how to explain it. All of those are red flags, and they may be subtle at first, but they are red flags. And it's really important not to override those feelings, those noticing that inconsistent behavior or lack of respect, the boundary issues, or the energetic, even the energetic. You may not be aware, like on some level, energetically, something feels off, but you may not be able to tune into it or pick it out yet. But something's there. And I really want to support you not to ignore that. That it's important for you to start to really take notice. So why would you ignore red flags? Why would you ignore them? Well, when you're in a relationship, whether it's a personal relationship or a business relationship, you really want it to work. You see potential instead of the reality that's going on. Or you may fear missing out or being alone, or you go into old patterns of people pleasing, over giving. Now, again, this could be personal or professional. In a personal relationship, it could be romantic, it could be a friendship, it could be a family relative. But it's all important. And remember, it's that familiarity that feels safe, but it doesn't always mean it's right. And so it's really important for you to start honoring, listening to those red flags if something feels off. And I'm going to repeat those 3 again, because those are really important. So on an emotional level, you may have a feeling something, maybe it's like you start wondering how you're feeling. Like if you're around somebody and you're always angry, or you're always frustrated, or you're always fearful, feeling intimidated, there's something there for you to look at. Now, this is where you need that discernment. I always talk about discernment, because it's discerning whether, because either way, this is for your healing. Either way, it's for you to gain more understanding of what's going on for you. So, on an emotional level, if you're feeling a certain feeling around somebody a lot, it's about you exploring what's going on for me. How come I'm feeling that with that person? What's constantly getting triggered for me? Now, it may not only be the other person. It's really also, remember, every relationship and everything is about you. And it's about what's going on that subconscious level. So it's understanding those subconscious beliefs. And there are times where you need to heal those subconscious beliefs and patterns. And when you do, the relationship may change, and it may be workable. But if the relationship doesn't change and you continue to feel this about someone, and here's the thing, I also want you to know there's lines, there's levels of it. If there's total disrespect, if there's abuse, if there's abuse in any way, that's something for you to look at and say, I'm not going to tolerate that. So, but if there's something that may be workable, that's where you can be more flexible with yourself and the other person. So again, there's levels of it. Because, and if you're questioning a relationship, don't go deeper into the relationship until you're clear which way it is. And you may need help with that. You may need support. Sometimes we can't always know what we need to do unless we get help from another person. And that's often what I do, is helping others to get that clarity. So, excuse me. And so it's important to really be clear on that. And then if their behavior is continually inconsistent, continually lacking respect, continually there's boundary issues, and you've addressed the issue, you've expressed it, you've communicated it, you need to look at, is this really a relationship you want to continue? Because that's a red flag that you need to look at. And again, don't want you to override them. The most important thing is to get support, to explore your red flags, I call it reality checks, because that really is helpful. And even if you have something where it feels off and you're not sure, again, you want help and support to be able to do that. So let's talk about advanced awareness. So it's noticing those subtle shifts early. It's becoming more and more, and this is emotional intelligence, and we've had shows on that emotional intelligence. So it's becoming aware of your thoughts. It's becoming aware of your emotional state, becoming aware of your body signals when you're in connection with someone else. How does it feel for you? And if you start feeling a tightness or a hesitation or a confusion or something feels off, that's really something for you to explore. It's really important for you to start exploring what's yours and what's theirs. And I'm going to tell you, I know that we need help sometimes to be able to decipher that. We can't always do that alone. It's having that support system, whether it's a therapist, counselor, coach, or a support group, or a really supportive friend who may be a very aware person, and really checking in with yourself in real time. And I also want to remind you, it's listening to your body signals, because your body knows before your mind does. Listening to your body. So, and then, so how do you respond? How does mastery happen? So it's not just noticing, but learning to respond differently, learning to act differently. And an example is it's asking questions instead of assuming. Now, very often you may not even be asking the questions you need to ask of the other person. You make an assumption right away. And remember, I say emails and texts sometimes can get misstrued really easily and really quickly. So if there's any questions you have about any kind of behavior or anything that's coming up for you, it's not going to, I really want to support you in not doing it through an email or through a text. It would be being able to have, ideally in person or on a video, or the next level would be telephone, so that you can hear the tone of voice, you can hear what's going on. And it would be healthy communication is also really important. And asking questions, but also asking questions not like, how come you did that? Because your tone of voice is going to be really important too. You want to ask questions with curiosity. Like, I'm wondering what happened when you blah blah blah, you did that behavior, or what happened? How come you didn't show in this, or how come it took you a half an hour to get here? What happened? I'm wondering. It's learning to ask those questions, learning to slow things down for yourself in all relationships. So it's learning to slow things down. And then it's learning to set those boundaries, to set boundaries early, and ultimately walking away when it is needed, including taking a time out if you need to. Because if you're emotionally upset and you know that the conversation will only escalate, or the argument will only escalate, you definitely want to take a time out. So it's either walking away for the moment or walking away from the relationship if you notice that it's not working. And your response, your new behavior, is what will break that long-term pattern. And again, the more aware you are, the more you understand the pattern, the easier it may be for you. See, you may understand the pattern, but you also want to heal the pattern. The more healing you do from your subconscious mind, the more you heal it, the more you'll be able to break the pattern. And it's really learning to raise your standards and have that identity shift. So what I want you all to think about is, what can you tolerate? 2, what do you choose to what are you choosing? What behavior have you tolerated in the past? 2, what behavior will I choose to have people around me? I choose respect. I choose people to respond to me in healthy, appropriate ways. I choose to be loved and valued and respected. All of that is part of the healing. And your identity work is really someone who becomes more trusting of yourself. It's learning to trust yourself. It's learning to honor your boundaries. And it's learning to choose your alignment over familiarity. Remember that those old patterns can feel familiar and safe, but it doesn't mean they're healthy. It doesn't mean that they are working for you anymore. And it may be that you need to say no when it doesn't feel comfortable to say no. And it's learning to choose yourself and honor yourself and be in alignment with your higher self and your soul, so that you can choose to honor you and say no. Okay, so we have a couple more things. Sometimes it's hard to ask the correct questions. That is true, Misty. Sometimes it is hard to ask the correct questions, but it's being able to tune in and 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 adjust what the correct question will be so that you can get the answer that you need that will help you to know more about, is this something that's really inappropriate behavior, or is it something that will be okay? And so you can practice. You can practice figuring out, like, when there's a behavior, what are the questions that you feel like? Look at your relationship patterns. And even if there's not somebody specifically that you're having a situation with, or if there is somebody specifically, you may want to start looking at what questions can you ask. So, and you could practice with yourself before you actually ask them. That's what I would suggest. And Mickey says, not everyone can read the tone of voice, a tone of people. And you know what? You're right, Mickey. Not everyone can, but it's really helpful to learn. Again, that's part of emotional intelligence, is learning to read or to get a sense of or to feel what another person is feeling. Now, again, this is really important. You can't assume that someone is angry. You may want to say, because if they're not sounding angry, but they're acting angry, that may be something, I'm wondering how you're feeling. Or you may want to find out what they are feeling. Now, they may be able to be in touch with it. So not everybody's going to be in touch with it, but it's also helpful for you to check it out and check it out whether what they're feeling. And here's the thing. Sometimes, like, if someone is really acting inappropriately, I also want you to know it's very possible that they may be in denial, or they may go into denial. They may deflect it. They may blame you. If any of those things are happening, those are red flags. Those are red flags. So that's another thing for you to be aware of and to look at. And ignoring your red flags keeps patterns alive. And so your intuition is your guide. And it's learning to start changing those responses, the behaviors. So some questions is, what red flags have I ignored in the past? What did I feel but overrode? And what can I do next time not to? And so we are going to continue to have more inspired and empowered living next week. And I'm very excited because I am going to have a special guest next week. And my special guest, she is going to be talking about, her name is Janice Whiting, and she is doing this event called Million Women Rising. Very exciting. I'll be speaking at this event. And my video will be up there, so you definitely want to join us. And Janice is a seasoned entrepreneur, business strategist, and she's a burnout recovery expert with over 30 years experience founding and scaling multiple business ventures, including a global business. She is the author of Building Your Inner Empire, Thinking Time for Entrepreneurs, Spiral Up, and many more. She's done so much. So she knows what it takes to do the inner work and the outer work. And I'm very excited to have her join us next week. And we will continue with talking to Janice and helping you to really get what you need in the inner game, and talking more about Million Women Rising. And I look forward to having her join us next week. So join us next Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern, that's live, 5 p.m. Eastern, on talk4tv.com, w4wn.com, my YouTube channel. And you can also hear the podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Pandora, Apple, Amazon, and many more. And I look forward to connecting with you more next week. And I wish you all an inspired and empowered day, night, and week. Have a great one, everybody. Bye for now.